And hello, everybody. I'm Frank Spillers, and welcome to Rural Community Solutions TV live stream, where we talk about how communities and how we help communities design family-friendly, youth-centered places that attract people. At Rural Community Solutions, we look for your solutions, and we help you uncover your solutions through all those issues that we help you identify. What are the assets that you have? What are the potentials that you have? We help you think like an entrepreneur because entrepreneurs think in opportunities. They look for opportunities and then they capture those opportunities and they look at how they can provide those solutions to the opportunities that they can capture. And so how does your community think like an entrepreneur? Well, we have developed processes across the board that are built upon 4 different types of pillars. Now, these 4 pillars, when they're put together, they create intersections where you can build an entrepreneurial economy. So why would you want an entrepreneurial economy in your rural community? Well, let me tell you, you want an entrepreneurial economy because entrepreneurship is an attitude. Entrepreneurship is an attitude, but it's creating about 98% of your new jobs. 98% of new jobs created are by new business startups or your existing businesses. Now, if you combine those and you are looking for how do we create jobs, how do we create within our community, how do we create those jobs? It's because of entrepreneurship. That is a better way to create your job economy, creating those jobs, because entrepreneurs have a whole bunch of benefits to becoming. But what does that have to do with the 4 pillars? Well, here's the 4 pillars that we talk about: relationships, engagement, entrepreneurship, and collaboration. So we're going to focus on the pillar of entrepreneurship today and put that together with the other pillars that we have done of earlier this week of relationships and engagement. And we're creating that entrepreneurial economy. Now, in those institutes that we have shown you this week, we're going to look at the Entrepreneurship Institute, especially the youth entrepreneurship abilities and capabilities within your community. How many of you in your community have said, we're losing our best and our brightest when your youth are moving away? Well, here at Rural Community Solutions, we don't believe that you have a brain drain. There is not a brain drain going on. All there is across this country are brain exchanges. In other words, the youth are looking for opportunities and moving to the opportunity. All you have to do is look at your community and say, are we giving our youth the opportunity that they need, the opportunity that they need to stay? And then if you ask yourself the next question, we're losing our youth because they don't have jobs. The jobs aren't here to keep them. You're looking too superficial. You have to look deeper into how your community is created, how your community is thinking. That's entrepreneurial thinking. How do you start thinking like an entrepreneur? And so what we do with our Youth Entrepreneurship Institute is we actually go into your schools, and here's a hint, we ask the youth. We use our processes to ask your youth and engage your youth into conversations about how do they feel about your community. You know, they might not tell you because they don't want to make hurt your feeling or whatever. But when strangers come in and we can ask them questions, we get more out of them because they're more comfortable talking to us because we're not from there. All right. And so they'll tell us basically what they hear at home, because they'll hear in their environment around home how their parents feel about the community, and then they just reflect what they hear at home because they haven't really experienced the community. However, some do experience that community, and they will tell us how they feel when they are approached by adults, or they're downtown, or they're around their community. How do they feel? Do they feel welcome? Do they feel accepted in their community? Or do they not have the correct family name? Or do they not live in the correct part of town? That is an important part of how your community addresses those issues. Now, many a times when we have gone into a community, I shouldn't say many times, a couple of times when we've gone into a community and we have done this, we've given the community the report, but what happens is the community doesn't believe what we report. In other words, they tell us that, oh, our kids would never say that, or our kids don't really feel like that, or you shouldn't have asked that question. In other words, they're denying what they hear, and you have to accept what the youth are saying. It's when you reject what the youth are saying, they don't feel like they are engaged. They don't feel valued. It's just like when you're walking downtown or you're sitting around and somebody rejects what you say, you don't feel valued. Well, you need to value your youth. You say you do, but do your actions speak louder than your words? And when we go and we talk to the youth, we also uncover entrepreneurial wants and desires in those youth. And then you can take those desires in those youth and match them up to what your businesses are right now in your community. And so with 98% of new jobs created across this country by new business startups and entrepreneurial efforts, there is a job creation opportunity that is before you in a rural community that doesn't take a war chest. It doesn't take recruitment trips. It doesn't take a small minority of hope that 2% of your jobs are going to come and land in your lap and solve all your youth needs. That's just not going to happen. And so in his book, The Startup Community, which is written by Brad Field and Ian Hathaway, The Startup Community, they address a startup community on what needs to happen to create the foundation for an entrepreneurial economy in the startup community to happen. All right. And so they start out with a physical level. They start out with, where does a community start from? And then they address this and leverage it and measure it against the leverage of long-term impact, or a short-term impact that's really easy to do and it's fast to do, but it doesn't have long-lasting change. And so here's what they're saying. Okay, and so when you have a startup community right here, when you have that startup community, there are things you can do. Now, what happens in some communities right now is they're focusing on the physical lever. In other words, tangible assets. They're creating incubators. They're creating co-working spaces. They are creating physical stuff that they think entrepreneurs will happen. Well, that's really easy to focus on right now because it's real popular. So it's easy to do. You see the results right in front of you because it's physical. And you can measure that. Did we open the co-working space? Yes, you did. Check. We're going to check that off the list. Well, you move on up, and this is an uphill stream. Remember, it's an uphill battle it's an uphill effort, because once you start moving up, it's a longer term impact. Now, we have said that entrepreneurship in your community is a long-term effort. You need to look 20 years out, and this is why. This is why, because 20 years out, you're going to make a bigger impact. All right. So 20 years out, they also say, here's the information lever. Now, the information lever is that information will flow. It will flow. It free flows. In other words, there's a transparency. Information also is welcome. They don't turn down ideas. They listen to all ideas. Startup communities listen to all ideas. They don't respond to it or in a negative way. They don't react to it in a negative way. They say, here's the idea. We accept it. How can we help? That's information flow. Here's the information you need. Here's where you can go. Here's the resources. All right. So that is pretty much the start of where the ecosystem is, because that's a resource base to where they can move forward and help support those entrepreneurs. And so we'll move up then to the next lever, and that's the social lever. That's the social lever where the rules, the norms, the incentives, and the goals and the system structure is to put into place. So what type of system structure do you have on your entrepreneurial community? In other words, what type of systems do you have in place for your entrepreneurs to go? Do your entrepreneurs and does your community build relationships? Do they have a system to create the mindset of an entrepreneur? Do you have a system to create the mindset of leadership? Do you have a system to create the mindset of a collaborative atmosphere? Do you have a system in place for your community to think like an entrepreneur? If you don't, we have a think like an entrepreneur system that you can put into place and work on your 20-year opportunity, your 20-year, 25-year out opportunity. Now, the last lever is a hard lever, right? That is a lever that is ongoing all the time, and that is your conscious lever. Now, that is a lever that you're working on consciously all the time about your culture. You're aware of your culture and you're building upon the new culture. You're changing that mindset. Remember, in your social lever, we had a system in place that would help cultivate that new mindset, help teach that new mindset. The conscious lever is creating that new mindset and living the mindset. It is crafting a new attitude, a positive attitude. We have a saying here at Rural Community Solutions is that happiness is a choice. So is being a crap magnet. Well, if you're happy and you choose to be happy, then you're going to attract happiness. It's going to permeate into your society. It helps your mindset create that atmosphere. And that is the engagement factor. That is the environment that you are creating in your community that has that mindset that's going to support entrepreneurs. That is a 20-year effort. That is a 20 to 25 years. It's always an effort, and you need to keep that 20-year view always in going. And so that is the levers that you need to work on. That in startup communities, that's how they explained how you can change an entrepreneurial system, how you can change and create an entrepreneurial mindset in the long term. So as you're working on that and creating that entrepreneurship environment, you might want to ask yourself, well, why do that? When you are attracting entrepreneurs, when you are attracting the creative class, if you will, that entrepreneurial creative class, that entrepreneurial mindset, entrepreneurs are very creative. And so they build things that last. They will build lasting things. Entrepreneurs will also invest their time and their talents back into your community because that's where they live, work, and play. Now, your community, as you have identified it at the Community Prosperity Institute, can be all your commuting patterns. And so tomorrow we're going to be talking about how do you bring those communities together into one community. So if you live in a region that has conflict with other communities and you're not quite working together, and your silos at your in your organizations. In other words, here's this community, they're working on this, and here's this community and they're working on that, and here's this community and they're working on that. You want to come back tomorrow as we talk about our community builder process that we use to bring collaborative efforts into your region, into your communities, so everybody is working together. As you attract your entrepreneurs, you're starting to create that mindset to where entrepreneurs are problem solving. Entrepreneurs are looking for that opportunity, looking at those problems, and then creating solutions, not creating that solution or the problem that they see is a barrier. It's not a barrier, because creative problem solving is the solution that you want to help your communities with. So entrepreneurship is that pillar that upholds and will help you retain your youth and attract families to your community, because it's a creative class. It's creative on opportunities of how they can, in their mindset, create opportunities themselves that they will want to stay around your community. So don't push your youth out, help them stay. Don't blame the youth for leaving. Create opportunities within the community that they can create their own opportunities that they want to stay. Create great experiences for their memories, create great experiences that they can remember your community. So when they go out and they get experience, they'll want to come back. They'll want to spread their wings a little bit, find their way, create and to learn more, create more experiences within their life, bring those back to your community, and they'll maybe bring their families back to the community because they had a great growing up experience. And so come back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time, and we're going to be talking more about how to get communities in your region to collaborate more and work together into one area. You can watch us on YouTube at Rural Community Solutions TV, or you can go to our Facebook page at Rural Community Solutions, or you can listen to the podcast here. But if you listen to this podcast, I might want to direct you back to the YouTube channel so you can see some of our graphics that we use. It's very, it's eye-opening. It'll help reinforce what you're hearing. But our podcast is at anchor.fm/Frank Spillers, and you can catch this on the go if you need to. So I'm Frank Spillers, and on behalf of Kim, who is out today, we want to thank you for tuning in and joining us. And so we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.